Call to order the regular Township Board meeting of Chesterfield Township for Tuesday, March 8th, 2022 at 7 p.m. All stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. Clerk Berry, call the roll.
Supervisor Kersten.
Here.
Treasurer Elliott.
Here.
Trustee Anderson.
Here.
Trustee Joseph.
Here.
Trustee Demink.
Here.
Trustee Vosberg. Clerk Berry is here.
Item 4, approval of the agenda.
Mr. Supervisor, I'd make a motion to approve the agenda.
Support.
Motion by Clerk Berry, supported by Trustee Vosberg to approve the agenda as published.
Mr. Supervisor, I'd like to make
Treasurer Elliott, I'm sorry. Treasurer Elliott made the support.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. I beg your pardon. I would like to approve the agenda with the removal of item 5B under presentations.
Thank you. Is there continued support?
Continued
support to approve the agenda as posted with the removal of item 5B, and I apologize, I missed that. Colby Miller had an emergency come up late this afternoon. He indicated that he will reschedule in either the next meeting or shortly thereafter. With that being said, Clerk Berry, please call the roll.
Clerk Berry, aye. Treasurer Elliott.
Aye.
Trustee Anderson.
Aye.
Trustee Joseph.
Aye.
Trustee Demink.
Aye.
Trustee Vosberg.
Aye.
Supervisor Kersten.
Aye. Item 5, presentations. What I would invite Judge Dennings, please.
Good afternoon.
welcome.
Well, good afternoon. Good evening. I don't know the proper greeting. Good evening, distinguished board. I'm Teri Lynn Dennings. I am the newly appointed judge to Macomb County Circuit Court. I was appointed by the governor in late December and took the bench in mid-January. So I just wanted to come out. Part of my commitment was public service beyond the bench, and so I want to make sure that I'm visible in the community, and the community includes all of Macomb County. So I wanted to come out and introduce myself. The last time I was out here, I was running in 2016, and as I was coming down Sugar Bush Road, I'm like, wow, things have changed since 2016. It looks amazing, all of the new development. And so anyways, I was like, maybe I need to move to Chesterfield. I currently live in Warren. But while I'm here, I guess I can provide everyone, since we're all residents here, with a brief update on the courts. As you may have heard, Judge Marlinga has resigned his position at the Circuit Court. So his term was up this year anyway, so there's currently a vacancy for his seat. There may or may not be an appointment made by the governor to replace him. Kathleen George, who was the probate court judge, she also resigned, and so there's currently a vacancy for her position. People applied for that, and my understanding is that there have been people interviewed for that, but there has been no appointment for Judge George's probate position. So currently at the Circuit Court, we have 2 vacancies. I was appointed when Judge Mark Switalski retired. I applied for his position, so I was appointed to his vacancy. So we don't know, what the next year will look like, but there are going to be some changes occurring in the Circuit Court. And I would also like to say that since I've been there, the Circuit Court judges are working really hard for the residents in Macomb County. When we look at where our court is in comparison to Oakland County and Wayne County in terms of the backlog because of the pandemic, things slowed down. Macomb County is still doing very well. We're doing way better than Wayne County, and we're in stride with Oakland County, if not doing better than Oakland County. So there's not a significant delay in jury trials, and I'll tell you, I share a hall with Judge Ed Servito, and he's rolling with those jury trials. One day he had my jury room and his jury room. So I want you to know that the judges at the Circuit Court are working hard for the residents of Macomb County, and I guess that's it. But thank you for allowing me to come and speak today. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Trustee Joseph.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. Judge Dennings, I just wanted to, I know that you're a humble person. I wanted to thank you for your leadership on the court, being assigned to the Family Vision as your program director at the 16th Circuit. I very much appreciated the way you came in and made a point to talk to me, my boss, the juvenile court administrator, and the court administrator to talk about your role, which is a very important one. And I am very, very appreciative of that and the work that you've done to just let people know what it is that we're proud of at the circuit court. I did have one message for you. One of the supervisors on our management team, Edna Clark, is very big in the Alpha Kappa Alpha sorority, and she told me about your last meeting regarding a discussion on the Crown Act, and she's very anxious for you to come to the next meeting, and she wanted me to also remind Ms. Merriweather that the Alpha Kappa Alpha is the first and finest. She took a special exception to that, and also to let you know that Supervisor Kersten and I were contacted by Ms. Tinsley, who is the Macomb chapter chair of the Alpha Kappa Alpha, and we will be hosting them for their quarterly meeting here on April 17th, so I hope to see you. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further comments from the board? Item 5C, Clerk Perry.
Item 5C is recognition of the Government Finance Officers Association Certificate of Achievement in Financial Reporting.
I will call Deputy Duchesne for this matter.
If we could have Finance Director Bauer please come to the podium. Members of the board, the GFOA, or Government Finance Officers Association, established the Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Financial Reporting in 1945 to encourage and assist state and local governments to go beyond the minimum requirements of generally accepted accounting principles and prepare annual comprehensive financial reports that evidence the spirit of transparency and full disclosure, and then to recognize individual governments that succeed in achieving that goal. The goal of the program is not to assess the financial health of participating governments, but rather to ensure that users of the financial statements have the information they need to do so themselves. This is a first-time recognition that is often referred to as the combination audit and comprehensive financial report that is prepared by the Finance Department under the Director of Finance. Today, we receive and recognize the Finance Department of Chesterfield having received the annual financial report, and we recognize Finance Director Vicki Bauer for her leadership and role in that achievement today. It is one of few communities now that have both achieved the GFOA Award for Budget and Presentation Excellence and Financial Reporting Excellence. So if I may present Finance Director Bauer to receive the certificate that you have, Mr. Supervisor.
Vicki, you want to come up here?
Yeah, better picture. Yeah, come around, please.
Thank you very much. Item 5D. Mr. Johnson, would you come to the podium, please? Clerk Perry?
Item 6D is a certificate of recognition presented For Kevin Johnson, for service to Chesterfield Township from August 2nd, 1999 to March 11th, 2022.
Deputy Duchesne, if you would address this.
Assistant Director of Public Works Kevin Johnson began, as noted, his career with Chesterfield Township on August 2nd of 1999, and he'll be departing on March 11th to assume a director's role in a neighboring community. Since our arrival, I will not speak their name here. But Kevin is going to be director of a larger community and certainly put to use his skills he's acquired over time. Now, Kevin's story is a model one. He began with the township as a utility worker in 1999. He has pursued his education, obtained his degree, and advanced work in public management training, completing this now cycle with Chesterfield Township. He has been involved in so many programs, both water and sewer, and activities that are too many to mention, but one that'll stick out in many people's minds of the past few years is Fragmites. He will long be remembered as Mr. Fragmite in Chesterfield Township. But we, on behalf of the board, the township, and the administrative service, we congratulate Mr. Johnson on his new position and wish him the best in his endeavors. Congratulations, Kevin.
Trustee Vosberg.
Thank you. When the list of Kevin's accomplishments were being read, I thought to myself, they better say Fragmite, because if Steve didn't, I would. And I just want to thank you, because one of the things, when I was even a county commissioner, the thing that bothered me about driving along Chesterfield 21-mile road in Jefferson, sometimes it was like you're driving in this Fragmite tunnel. And when I became township trustee, I talked to you about it, and I feel like if you had a certificate in it, in the knowledge of Fragmite, I almost have one just from, listening to you and learning from you. So thank you very much.
Clerk Barry?
Kevin, what are we going to do with records management and Laserfish usage in DPW without you? Kevin, you were the first one of the first ones to become fully engaged in the digitizing of township records. You recognize the value of that, and we're really one of the leaders in that. And because of that, Chesterfield Township residents now have more access and transparency in our water and sewer records, and I want to thank you for that, for being so cooperative and really being a leader in that regard and working with us as we endeavored to provide better and more transparency for our residents. Thank you so much. Best of luck to you.
Just some comments from me, Kevin. Thank you very much. You've been a great asset to my, since I started here in July. I wish you nothing but the best, and I know the community isn't that far. We're going to see each other, so congratulations again. Best of luck. Item 6, department reports. Any department reports? Trustee DeBink.
This is from Leisure Services. Now hiring, looking for unforgettable seasonal job. Join us at Parks, or be instrumental in helping us implement our ever-popular summer day camp program. Earn up to $18 an hour, depending on position and qualifications. For more information or to apply, visit Chesterfield Township website. Positions available until filled. Initial interviews are taking place the week of March 7th. The Easter Bunny is getting excited to visit with all the children at this year's Bunny Breakfast. Pancakes flipped through the air, a chance to meet the bunny in person, an egg hunt, outdoor petting farm awaits you and your family. Tickets will sell out early, so register early. Event will be held on Saturday, April 2nd. Breakfast is served at 9, 10, and 11 a.m. Cost is $10 for resident, $15 for non-resident. And plan your summer events at Brandenburg Park. Open-air pavilions and indoor building are available for you to rent for your seasonal party. All-day rentals include tables, electricity, and a guarantee of a rental space for your group. Reservations are accepted in person or at the Leisure Services Department. And lastly, there's a mom-to-mom sale coming Saturday, March 19th from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. at the Chesterfield Municipal Offices. Admittance is free. Hope to see you there. Thank you, Mr. Supervisor.
Thank you, Trustee Demink. Clerk Barry.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. Members of the board and public, just an update from the Elections Department. Today, Chesterfield Township hosted ES&S, which is our vendor for our election equipment here in Chesterfield Township. We hosted a special training session for our fellow neighboring communities and election administrators in the high-speed tabulators. So we had visitors here as well as our vendor to assist clerks and election administrators both in Chesterfield as well as in our neighboring communities with better utilization of the what we call the DS450, which is our high-speed tabulator, which allows us to tabulate many more ballots than a standard tabulator does, and we utilize that in our absentee counting rooms. It's very critical, especially now with the increased number of absentee ballots that all of us have, that we need to be able to facilitate the counting, the accurate counting, and the expeditious counting of those ballots so that people aren't waiting more time than necessary for election results. So Chesterfield was very proud and pleased to host that. Also from the Elections Department, as many of you may know, with the census every 10 years, we also have redistricting. A lot of people have discussed that. One notable change for Chesterfield Township is for as long as I have been here, we have had one state house seat. Chesterfield Township will now be represented by 2 different state house seats. The bulk of Chesterfield Township will retain its current state house seat. However, the southeastern portion of the township is included in a separate house seat that is in a contiguous community. So that is one notable difference, but I would like the board and the public to know that you can always go to our website under the Elections tab, and we will keep you updated and posted as to the changes relative to redistricting. That process will not be fully completed until the beginning of April, while those changes make their way through the appropriate processes. But we will keep you updated as changes occur. Please check our website under the Elections tab for any of those changes. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Clerk Barry. Trustee Anderson.
Thank you. Just letting you know that our Chesterfield Township Historical Society is back in swing. We had our first meeting last night. Some of the events they hold at the Historical Village include the St. Clair Voyagers History Alive. There's also a World War II reenactment, Vietnam War reenactment, and Heritage Days and Log Cabin Days, all held at our Historical Village. As we get closer to those dates, I'll give you more information on them. I'd invite anyone interested in joining our Historical Society. Our next meeting is April 4th at the Chesterfield Township Library, 50560 Patricia, about 6:30 p.m. Please show up if you're interested, and they do a lot of other great activities. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Anderson. Any further comments from the board? Department reports, there are none here. Item 7, consent agenda. Clerk Barry.
All items under the consent agenda are considered routine by the board and will be enacted in one motion. There is no separate discussion of these items. If discussion of any item is required by a board member, it will be removed from the consent agenda and considered separately. Public comment, the annual 2022 membership for SEMCOG at a cost of $6,162 from GL number 10124882800. And item C, approve the payment of bills as submitted by the Finance Department.
Do I have a motion to approve the
Motion
consent agenda as read?
Mr. Supervisor, I'd like to make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Support.
Supported by Treasurer Elliott.
Mr. Supervisor, I would like to have
Trustee Joseph.
I'd like to have consent agenda item B removed from the consent agenda and considered separately.
Support.
Mr. Supervisor, I will amend my motion to approve the consent agenda with item 6B to be removed and considered separately.
Thank you. Is there continued support?
7B, excuse me.
7B. Continued to support? There's a motion by Clerk Berry, supported by Treasurer Elliott, to approve the consent agenda as read with the removal of item 7B. Does that satisfy you, Trustee Joseph?
Yes. And if it pleases the motion maker, I know that we have individuals here and a presentation, so if we wanted to consider that after, I'm perfectly okay with that, if that is satisfactory. It really is a matter of the clerk, whatever you prefer.
I'll defer to the clerk. 7 or 8.
If we can have 7B to become item 8G, and consider that our last item on our agenda, on our regular agenda.
Item B will become 8G. Comments from the board? Any comments from the public?
Paul Lafata, 48055 Mallard. In the bill run, Department 446, Highways, Streets, and Bridges, General Ledger number 101-446-928000, Sidewalk Maintenance, Spalding Decker Program, invoice for $85,027.33. There is no General Ledger expenditure number 101-446-28 in the 2021 budget. There's a 929, which is road maintenance for $32,500, and there's a 929-001 for motorized motorized paths for $5,000. But that general ledger number is not in the 2021 budget, nor is that general ledger number in the 2022 budget. The township purchasing policy is just not an enabler to spend fees and tax dollars. The purchasing policy defines the guidelines to protect the integrity of the fees and dollars that are expended. They ensure that the expenditures are ethical and cost-effective, benefiting the Chesterfield residents. Section 2 of the purchasing policy, professional services, contracts, and qualification-based selection process was not followed. Board approval is required over $20,000 unless it's waived. There's no documentation, no board minutes, no meeting minutes, nothing that waives the process. Spalding Decker is being paid $25,000 fee, and nowhere is there a contract or any kind of document authorizing it. The definition of collusion. Collusion is a non-competitive, non-transparent, and sometimes illegal agreement between parties which attempts to disrupt market's equilibrium. The act of collusion involves people and/or companies who conspire to work together to gain unfair market advantage. 25% engineering fee does not fit the purchasing policy based on quality quote-based selections, unfair market advantage. Spalding Decker defined the replacement criteria in the ordinance, unfair market advantage. Spalding Decker inspectors determine replacement, unfair market advantage. Spalding Decker's timing to replace is unfair market advantage. Schedules for mandatory replacement when homeowners cannot meet the required timing, unfair market advantage. Homeowners receive a tax lien with interest if they can't pay in full. It puts tax lien, it goes on an assessment. Spalding Decker collects a 25% project cost fee currently affected by double-digit inflations and increasing costs of gas at the pumps. Unfair market advantage because every time the cost of cement goes up $1 a square foot, they get another 25 cents. No competition. another unfair market advantage. Was there collusion between the township and Spalding Decker, and which result in fleecing the township residents?
Thank you, sir. Any further comments from the public? No further comments from the public. I have a motion by Clerk Berry, supported by Treasurer Elliott, to approve the consent agenda as stated with removal of item 7B, which is now 8G. Clerk Berry?
Clerk Berry, aye. Treasurer Elliott.
Aye.
Trustee Anderson.
No.
Trustee Joseph.
No.
Trustee Demink.
Aye.
Trustee Vosberg.
Aye.
Supervisor Kersten.
Aye. Item 8, regular agenda. Clerk Berry.
Item 8A is to adopt proclamation number 2022-04 to recognize the month of March as Women's History Month.
Motion to approve.
Motion by Treasurer Elliott,
Support.
supported by Trustee Vosberg. Sorry. Clerk Berry, would you read the proclamation, please?
To recognize March as Women's History Month. Whereas the Charter Township of Chesterfield, Michigan recognizes the month of March as Women's History Month, established in 1987 by Congress to celebrate the contributions American women have made to strengthen and lead the nation since its inception. And whereas Women's History Month honors women of every race, status, and ethnicity who have challenged the social and legal structures that have kept women's labor underappreciated and underrepresented throughout history to establish an equal role for women, ensuring the appreciation and value of equitable labor for future generations. And whereas American women have been leaders not only in securing their own rights of suffrage and equal opportunity, but also at the forefront of every major progressive social change movement in history, paving the way for future generations to enjoy the unalienable rights, duties, and responsibilities afforded equally to all citizens of the United States of America. And whereas each woman is extraordinary in her own way, proving that women working inside the home or outside in academia, science, technology, business, labor, governance, and more maintain a critical role in every sphere of society. Now therefore, on this 8th day of March 2022, and on behalf of the Charter Township of Chesterfield, State of Michigan, the Township Board of Trustees does hereby proclaim the month of March as Women's History Month in Chesterfield Township.
Thank you, Clerk Berry. Comments from the board? Treasurer Elliott.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. This year, the national theme for Women's History Month is Women Providing Healing and Promoting Hope. As we watch the news the last several years, we see how much our world truly needs healing and hope. We see and hear the tragedies happening overseas, and we feel the effects of the COVID-19 pandemic. And it is women who are disproportionately impacted negatively in the labor force participation. It is women who are disproportionately blessed with the responsibility of caregiving for their children and for the elderly. And it is women who suffer the greatest in the increased rates of domestic violence during these times. But today, we are joined by local women who are here. These women are mothers, daughters, and sisters who have come to celebrate this important day in Chesterfield Township on today, the International Women's Day, to celebrate the important role of women. And I thank you for attending, and we will be taking a picture today with all of you.
Trustee Vosberg.
Treasurer-
I'm going off your mic, so.
No, oh, I'm sorry. I left it on, but Treasurer Elliott spoke well enough. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further comments from the board? Comments from the public?
Michelle Wilson Merriweather, 52860 Muirfield Drive, Chesterfield, Michigan. I just wanted to state that when I received the call from Kathy Elliott, and I want to thank Treasurer Elliott, for establishing the proclamation for Women's History Month. I was very excited and definitely wanted to ensure that I showed a full support of the proclamation, because we have many women doing great things in Chesterfield Township, and you will hear from a few of them, but I just wanted to mention who we had here tonight with my time. We have Kelly Nolan, who is running for State Representative, District 63. We have Judge Teri Lynn Dennings, whom you heard for, Macomb County Judge. Congratulations as well for your appointment. We have Malia Howard, whom is the Vice President of the National Council of Negro Women that covers Chesterfield. She is also a board member of the Black Excellence Macomb County Committee. She's also a Vice President of Zeta Phi Beta Sorority Incorporated, David Joseph, as well. We also have Breck McCrory, who is the Deputy Director of the Chesterfield Libraries. We also have Ms. Pamela and Alexander, the new President and Chairwoman of the North Macomb NAACP. We're so proud to have them in our area. We also have as well Ms. Monisha Riley, who is the President and owner of a wonderful Chesterfield business by the name of Thrivent Financial Services. We also have as well today, we have our very own Wendy Jones, who is here today as an owner and a business partner, Real Estate One, and she's also the immediate past president of the Rotary. So I just want to state that once again, it is important, the accolades always, but each and every day and everything that they do, just taking a moment to thank them when it matters, when no one else is watching, is what makes the difference. Each of these women recognize they are all paving the way. Some of them are basically creating a path as they go, because there is no path, and sometimes that's not easy. But I just wanted to say thank you as well for recognizing the great women of Chesterfield Township, and I wanted to salute each of you for everything that you're doing. Thank you.
Second. Can I leave you standing just for a minute? I have
take a motion.
motion by Treasurer Elliott, supported by Trustee Vosberg, to approve the proclamation as stated. Clerk Berry.
Treasurer Elliott.
Aye.
Trustee Vosberg.
Aye.
Trustee Anderson.
Aye.
Trustee Joseph.
Aye.
Trustee DeMink.
Aye.
Supervisor Kersten.
Aye.
Clerk Berry, aye.
Thank you, ladies.
You have more comments?
Skip that. Item 8B, Clerk Berry.
Item 8B is to adopt Proclamation 2022-05 to recognize Severe Weather Awareness Week as March 20th through the 26th, 2022.
Do I have a motion to, my apologies.
It's okay. On International Women's Day. I'm just joking. I just want to thank the board for that acknowledgement. I'm sure everyone that is in the room tonight really appreciates it, and so thank you very much for that acknowledgement. My name is Malia Howard, and as Mrs. Michelle Merriweather so eloquently stated, I am a proud member of two historically black organizations that were founded nationally, the National Council of Negro Women and Zeta Phi Beta Sorority Incorporated. The National Council of Negro Women of Macomb County section serves all the cities that are in Macomb County, your Warren, your Roseville, Mount Clemens, Clinton Township, and Chesterfield. Zeta Phi Beta Sorority Incorporated was founded in 1920 on the campus of Howard University, and we've been active for over 100 years now. Both organizations collectively hold over 180 years of service between the two of them, both focusing on bettering and uplifting and strengthening the community that they serve, and that includes Chesterfield as well. Again, Zeta Phi Beta Sorority Incorporated, the Mount Clemens chapter, was founded in 1971, and the National Council of Negro Women, Macomb County section, was founded in the 70s as well. Both organizations have provided funding for other local organizations such as March of Dimes, Susan G. Komen, and initiatives such as providing financial resources, educational workshops like backpack drives, financial resources, first-time home buyers programs, etc. The same opportunities and assistance that we provide your Roseville, your Warren, Clinton Township are the same resources needed by those in this very community. So I stand up here to say the National Council of Negro Women, Macomb County, and Zeta Phi Beta Sorority Incorporated, Mount Clemens chapter are beneficial to Chesterfield. We need you, we love you, and we're here for you. Thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Jones.
Sorry, I know the board already got to speak, but I just wanted to tell you, Ms. Clark, who I work with and is a very close friend of mine, along with another member of our management team, are both members of the Alpha Kappa Alpha, and she takes pride in her organization, but she wanted me to make sure I know that you're one big family. When you get together, I noticed that you do put it on one another, because she shared with me that Alpha Kappa Alpha was started in 1908, and that they were the first. And so she takes much pride in that, and she's going to recruit as many of your members into her membership, and I hope you both just continue to do what you do, because the volunteer work that you ladies do, not just on behalf of people of color, but the enhancement of all of our community, is very much appreciated. And I really enjoy the nonstop reminders that our vice president is a member, and so it never ends at our workplace. But thank you for coming tonight, and appreciate you very much.
Thank you, Trustee Joseph. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. On behalf of the Northern Macomb County branch of the NAACP, I bring you greetings. My name is Pamela Alexander, and I am the president of this newly formed branch. Our catchment area is north of I-59, so we cover Chesterfield Township along with about 16 other communities. And so it is with great pleasure that I'm here this evening just to share a few words. Of course, you know that Macomb is changing colors, okay, and it's becoming more diverse. And we want to be able to support all people who live in this beautiful county. I was born and raised here, so this is home to me. I just want to read what our mission is for the NAACP: to ensure the political, educational, social, economic equality of all citizens. And I say all citizens, black, brown, blue, white, green, whatever. We are here to support anyone that has issues related to civil rights violations and housing intimidation. So with that being said, some of our priorities, of course, is voters' rights, education, and redistricting. I heard that mentioned earlier. Safety in schools. We are concerned about black and brown children who are having some challenges in school as it relates to some implicit biases. So we are addressing those issues, and we are on the forefront working with the school district, with the superintendents, with the principals and teachers to address those issues. Also, what we really enjoy is collaborating with partners. So I see this as an excellent opportunity to be here this evening without a doubt. I would truly invite you to consider if you would like to become members and be a part of the conversation, to get engaged, so that we can all work together to make Macomb County better, more welcoming, and because it's growing so much, and without a doubt, with growth, there are growing pains. So with that being said, check us out on our website, and I do have business cards that I'd like to share with you at the end of the meeting. I invite you to join us. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Alexander. Any further comments that I missed? Trustee Joseph again?
I'm sorry, this is right in my wheelhouse. And Ms. Alexander, I want you to know that in Chesterfield Township, at our circuit court where Ms. Dennings is, we have very keen awareness of the school-to-prison pipeline. And Chief Judge Biernat assembled a team that partners with other counties around the state and other courts around the state. And I was able to take some of that from the court and bring it to Chesterfield PD. And where we have a school resource officer, Amanda DePape, she is now connected with Judge Jokic's program to really keep an eye on disparity in treatment of people of color. And so a lot of times we find when a kid is unnecessarily removed from the classroom, not only puts them behind academically, but it enhances more behavior problems and a greater in-depth sort of relationship with the court, which is what we don't want. So we in Chesterfield have been able to identify that, and we work with our school administrators, and again, not to come back, but our middle school principal prides herself on being the founding member of Alpha Kappa Alpha chapter here in Macomb. So we have great connectivity here in Chesterfield, and I'm happy to come back from the 16th Circuit and bring some of the things that you mentioned tonight into our community. So thanks for being here.
Thank you, Trustee Joseph. Yes,
Hi,
ma'am.
good evening. I just wanted to introduce myself to the board here at Chesterfield Township. My name is Kelly Noland, and I'll be running for state representative in our new District 63. And I'm an Army veteran nurse. I live in Chesterfield at 50124 Maurice Drive. And I just wanted to say hello to everybody and greet y'all tonight and let you know I'm in the house. I'll be dropping my cards off at the table if you would like to pick one up. Please feel free to hit me up for any information or any comments or questions. And I thank you for your support in advance.
Thank you, ma'am. Am I missing anybody? Thank you. I'll bring it back up to the board. I have a motion by, I'm sorry, item 8B. Clerk Berry.
Item 8B is to adopt Proclamation 2022-05 to recognize Severe Weather Awareness Week as March 20th through 26th, 2022.
So moved.
Motion by Trustee Dennings, supported by Supervisor Kersten. Clerk Berry, would you read the proclamation?
To recognize March 20th through 26th, 2022 as Severe Weather Awareness Week. Whereas the Charter Township of Chesterfield, Michigan recognizes Severe Weather Awareness Week as March 20th through the 26th, 2022. And whereas each year severe thunderstorms rage across Michigan, producing floods, deadly lightning, strong winds, and tornadoes, damaging property and causing injury or death. And whereas community preparedness can minimize the dangers which the annual severe weather season presents to the lives and property of Michigan. And whereas focusing attention on preparedness and seeking ways to prepare for the possibility of tornadoes, flooding, and other life-threatening weather developments for Michigan homes, schools, hospitals, businesses, and industries can minimize risk for Michigan during the coming severe weather season. Now therefore, on this 8th day of March 2022, and on behalf of the Charter Township of Chesterfield, State of Michigan, the Township Board of Trustees does hereby proclaim the week of March 20th through the 26th, 2022 as Severe Weather Awareness Week in Chesterfield Township.
Thank you, Clerk Berry. Comments from the board? Comments from the public? Any comments from the public? Seeing none, just a comment on this, as you know, severe weather went through Armada last year, and again, we plan on doing some internal training with the fire chief, public safety director, and the police department in the coming week that will address a community response of this nature. It should occur, hopefully never occur in Chesterfield as it did in Armada. So I have a motion by trustee Dennings, supported by Supervisor Kersten, to approve the proclamation as read. Clerk Berry.
Trustee Dennings.
Aye.
Supervisor Kersten.
Aye.
Trustee Anderson.
Aye.
Trustee Joseph.
Aye.
Trustee Vosberg. Treasurer Elliott.
Aye.
Clerk Berry, aye.
Thank you. Item 8C.
Item 8C is a recommendation to enter into an agreement for contractual services with Mad Habit Creative LLC for media project services from March 2022 to December 2022 at an amount not to exceed $18,485.
Do we have a motion to approve item 8C?
Move to approve.
Trustee Vosberg, supported by Supervisor Kersten. Deputy Duchesne, would you address this, please?
Chesterfield Township has recorded meetings for a considerable amount of time, but in 2020, a significant upgrade in equipment allowed the live streaming to begin of township regular board meetings. Since that time, we've evolved to add other features and operations to that. And now in fiscal year 2022, the township is recording and live streaming planning commission and ZBA meetings for residents. All recordings are then placed on the township's YouTube channel that can be accessed. As part of the equipment upgrade with greater demands on staff, that is not their primary and essential job. And I want to take just a moment to commend and recognize Michelle Kemp, who hides under the screens over there every evening and makes sure that we have a broadcast that is usable. And she works very, very hard at a task that we have not always given her a great deal of training and support for, but she's found a way. So her day job is doing an outstanding job with our senior citizens and working in leisure services. In adding the additional services and covering the other meetings, it was time to broaden our perspective on the professionalization of broadcasting, and we have had an opportunity through Mad Habit Creative LLC to add other features such as the preparation of videos for township activities and events, preparing reports through that, annual reports. As you know them, they have worked not only on the last video for the township, but they work annually with the county on a number of projects highlighting the annual executive presentation. So we are recommending this contract with Mad Habit not to exceed $18,485 for this year, keeping in mind that although we do not designate or signify that franchise fees are directed to, because of the nature of fund accounting, to this particular activity, that those funds are received by the township with the intent from the cable providers and that it goes into broadcasting or it in some way enhances communication to residents. So there is a ability to have a designation there. But contracting with Mad Habit Creative will give the administrative services, leisure services, facilities, and other township departments access to a stockpile of professional videos and photos that can be used throughout the years and your special project, as well as producing live coverage of our meetings without interruption with a significant backup protection. Should anything happen, they will have equipment that can back up our equipment and be ready to broadcast. With that, that is our recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Duchesne. I'll bring it back up to the board. Clerk Berry?
I noticed in the agenda item that we don't have any other potential vendors, no other quotes included here. Were other vendors, was there a bid process for this, or were there other vendors contacted were there secured votes? Typically, when we see these come to the board, we see three, I think according to our purchasing policy, three quotes for us to compare services and offerings and so forth, as well as economic impact. So I was wondering if any other vendors were consulted or if we secured any other quotes, and if so, is there a reason why they're not included in this agenda item?
Being under 20,000, there was a nominal amount of checking as far as other companies that could produce this. Mad Habit was tested in the prior work, and being the short-term first-year experiment, it was recommended that we go with a company that has somewhat of a proven track record establishing some balance of understanding what the township wanted to do going forward. So it is a initial contract that may be altered as the board sees fit going forward. Mad Habit was the one that had the ability and experience in doing so at this time for this amount of money, so the department recommended that to us.
Any
Thank
further
you.
questions from the board? Trustee Anderson.
Yes. Thank you for the presentation. A couple things I agree with. Ms. Kemp does a tremendous job, been doing it for years here. You said an operative word there, nominal, kind of sticks with me. And I got mixed emotion on this program. Part of it, I think the public needs to see how their elected officials conduct their business. That's why part of me favors it. But I also looked at the last 11 board meetings going back to September 19th, looking at who watches them now online. What's going to change? How do you support it? Two of those meetings, December 14th meeting and also I think it was January 11th, had 206 and 338 votes. If you look to Facebook, see who's clicked on them. Might be the same dude looking at it 5 times. And if you add up the total views for the last 11 meetings between February 22nd and September 14th, if you add them up and divide them by 11, what was the average? The average view of any of those meetings was 172 individuals or residents. That's if you're looking at it YouTube or through the township site. We have Channel 6 and Anchor Bay School District that historically has shown our meetings. I believe there's a similar operation in Lance Cruz School District, other district here. Before we start spending another $18,000, and it's no reflection on this vendor, before we start getting another expenditure, which he seems to be never met a group of people can't say no. Before we do that, I'd like to see something, some kind of evidence that our township, the appropriate people, approach both those districts and set up a schedule. When you're going to show our board meetings. If you go to Anchor Bay, they're showing them from, I think, a couple of months ago. We have the capability of showing them over. They're getting it shown for free, and I'd like to see that done with our meetings before we engage in this. And I know there's also debates, people that sit at home don't understand the technology. They can watch it live stream, and I see some merit in that, but I'd like to see painless, non-expensive way explored before we start investing more money. Thank you.
Trustee Joseph.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. I agree with some of the points made by Trustee Anderson as well as Clerk Berry. But the fact remains, we've had a number of board meetings where the audio was not. You couldn't discern what people were saying. There were problems with video feeds. We have a dedicated employee, and I think Mr. Duchesne pointed it out. But she has a day job. She works the entire day in a completely different department. IT is not, her specialty, and oftentimes she comes here with equipment that is not ready to begin the board meetings, or there's a breakdown along the way, and she does the best that she can. But I think it's well documented here, and Mr. Duchesne said it right. She does the best outside of her field of expertise. And I think that if we had somebody who is a professional, and we've certainly invested in the equipment, we have professional equipment, and now to ensure that we have operators that are trained and can troubleshoot as we go would ensure a better record. And I understand where Trustee Anderson is coming from, but I would argue that sometimes people don't bother looking for our videos either on YouTube or Facebook because the quality is just not very reliable, and you can never really guarantee that you're going to be able to understand what's going on because the sound just intermittently goes out. it was so bad last year, there were a group of us that pooled our own money and spent, $300 a meeting to bring in a vendor who set up a tripod just to make sure that we could record, the transaction. And so a lot of times people will go back and preserve the record, and what goes out to the schools is really only the product that we send to them. So if we send to them a product that is inaudible or there are video problems, that doesn't do any good no matter how many times it's broadcast. So I do agree with the concerns about one, vendor, and two, how do we know that this is a good deal? Anybody that's even dabbled in this field knows the rates that are reflected here are really below market, and I think we saw that with the vendor that we brought in, who was a professional videographer, happened to be a Chesterfield resident and did it at a dramatic discount, but there are also costs that are incurred for using, in-house staff as well. There is overtime, I'm assuming, compensation for individuals who work a full day and then stay 4 hours into the evening. So I would assume that in the July budget amendment, we would have a reflection in the reduction of overtime hours, required, which is what we're doing now. So I think this is long overdue, and I will support it, and I appreciate that we are under the purchase policy, which requires three quotes. So I think this was a good job by the team that put this together. And with that said, I do share some of the concerns. So we'll see how this goes on a temporary, but I think this gives us a good opportunity to record meetings properly. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Joseph. Trustee Domingue.
I support this. I know we've had some glitches in the past, and if this company's going to have backup equipment here, it also, we do another video, like the supervisor did after he first got into office, to promote Chesterfield and what we have to offer. We can see where it goes and see how it comes out in cost-wise. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further comments from the board? Comments from the public?
Paul Afata, 48055 Mallard. Just for some clarification, when I read the documentation, it says that we were still going to utilize township employees for township board meetings, so I don't see any cost reduction there. It's a cost plus, so I don't think that's going away. The other thing is, like everything else that we've spent in the last few board meetings, or since the first of the year, this is another item that was not budgeted. This is another item that's going to add to the township's deficit. And the deficit grows at every board meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Further comments from the public?
I just wanted to speak in regard to the amount. I took a look at the breakdown, and I'm somewhat in agreement with Trustee Anderson. I can understand the need. However, the return on investment, I'm still struggling to see. I understand that you have media companies, nothing against a particular company. However, I would think that expenditure of this amount, it would be nice that we would be able to, as citizens, to be able to hear from the individuals to try to understand how are they going to drive any kind of traffic. If you're putting this much into it, over $18,000, and we're still getting such dismal numbers in terms of individuals even understanding how to access our meetings or how to utilize them, low audio, whatever it is, I just want to make sure that we're understanding what is the adequate and proper return on investment that we'll be getting for this expenditure. Thanks.
Thank you, ma'am. Any further comments from the public? Bring it back up to the board. Any comments from the board? I have a motion by Trustee Vosberg, supported by Supervisor Kersten, to approve item 8C. Clerk Berry.
Trustee Vosberg.
Aye.
Supervisor Kersten.
Aye.
Trustee Anderson.
No.
Trustee Joseph.
Aye.
Trustee Domingue.
Aye.
Treasurer Elliott.
No.
Clerk Berry, no.
Item 8E.
Item 8.
I'm sorry, item 8D. Sorry.
Item 8D is to approve a recommendation by Public Works to move forward with the planning stage of the Telstar Sanitary Sewer Lift Station Decommission Project by utilizing the services of AEW at an estimated design cost of $28,020 from GL number 591-000-150-000.
Do we have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Motion approved by trustee Dennings, supported by Supervisor Kersten. Director Johnson.
Yes, good evening. This is one of the stations that, or the station that used to pump sewage to the, what is now the North Lagoon property on Hennings Drive there, that, we no longer use. I have not seen it in service since I've been here, and it's been a while, so it's basically a 25-foot deep, roughly 6-foot diameter hole in the ground. We just need to decommission it, pull everything out of the ground, cut and cap the item below ground. You can kind of see in the picture here that there's a little blue canister behind the weeds there that typically sticks out of the ground. There's a lid that you can open up, and then there's a straight ladder down. That's how old all the lift stations used to be. A man would have to go down 25 feet, maintain the pumps, pull the pumps if they were plugged, things like that. So definitely unsafe conditions. So this will just basically remove that, cut it below ground. We'll fill it full of flow fill, which is like concrete, and leave it be.
Thank you, Kevin. Comments from the board? Any comments from the board? Comments from the public?
Joe Kadich, live on Sutton. I looked at this thing, and you got $28,000 to design whatever it's going to take to shut this thing down. And I know we're not needing it anymore, but why won't we just cap it off and leave it in place so it's not accessible? What are we going to spend money for so that, I don't know, that nobody gets access to it? Now, why do we have to go through all the room of taking it apart? Doesn't make sense. And could it be used in the future if something else fails? And you have to have something like this. I take it right now it's all the sewage is free flow or downhill flow, whatever you want to call it. But someday in the future, you may have to recommission this thing. To me, I would just say cap it off, leave it sit there, make sure nobody has access to it, save the money. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Further comments from the public?
Paul LaFata, 48055 Mallard. The pump station has a set of design drawings. I don't understand what we're designing to take it apart. Doesn't make sense. The other thing is we have contractual administrative fees in here for $4,500. All that is it creates a third party. In other words, the contractor that's taking it apart sends the invoice to AEW. AEW approves it, sends it to the township so it can get paid. I think we could probably do that internally. I don't understand why we need a third party to do this. I've asked this before. Doesn't make sense. And then there's 576 hours of inspection time. We're inspecting something to take it apart, and we don't have any inspectors that can go by there. That's another $11,500 to take something apart. We're not building quality into something that needs to run for 50 years. We're taking it apart. And to me, it looks like we're spending like $16,000 that isn't necessary. And I don't understand what they're going to design. There's a set of drawings for that pump station. You're going to disassemble it to the drawing. I think we're wasting money. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Any further comments from the public?
There's one other thing. When the Miller pump station was up for rebuild, I just wonder if they went through the program management process to look at things that went right and things that went wrong, because AEW cost us $50,000 to move the electrical cans and the transformers because they didn't put those in the drawing. It cost us an extra $50,000 on their part.
Thank you, sir. Any further comments from the public?
John Spica, 53978 Conner Drive. Just a quick question regarding regular item agenda D. For the estimated design cost of $28,020, we've got a full-time engineer on staff. Can somebody please explain to me why our full-time engineer that we pay can't handle this? Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Any further comments from the public? No further comments from the public? I'll bring it back up to the board. Trustee Demink.
Kevin, a couple quick questions. Since I've been in that thing from my younger days when my old man was around, are both pumps still in there?
Yes,
Is the wet well still in operation, or is that closed down?
closed down.
So there's no wet well that we have to fill in?
There's a wet well, there is.
So there's still a wet well there?
Yes.
Okay. So basically, it's still the steel ladder, the pumps, and all the electrical. So we don't know, especially from back in the days when that was put in, I think that was probably 70s,
Right.
80s.
Yep.
We don't know what type of contaminants are down in there. And going down in there now, because I knew some of them had elevators in, and now that it's a confined space, so you got to file confined space entry, correct?
Correct.
Okay, that's all I wanted to ask. Thank you.
There's also the proper, making sure it's disconnected from piping. There is a pipe that used to lead from that station to the lagoons. We want to make sure that pipe is officially disconnected, removed. We have no record showing that it actually was removed. It could just be capped in a hole in the ground. We want to make sure it's flow filled properly. And there's got to be a lot of soil borings and a lot of stuff around to make sure everything is safe. So there's more to it. I simplified just cutting and capping. I was trying to simplify it, but there is a lot more technical to it than just cutting below and filling it.
Because I know years and years back, a lot of septic sewer companies used to go there and they would dump what was in their tanks, and that would get pumped to the lagoons back before the hookup to Detroit.
Thank you, Kevin. Appreciate it. Any further comments? Trustee Joseph.
My concerns are similar to the concerns that were expressed by the residents. It's been capped for 25 years. What happens if we do nothing? And then the other concern that I have is, one, the contractor coming in to do the design, as Treasurer LaFata pointed out. We had that design that we spent a lot of money for, and then the final project was in front of somebody's picture window, and we had to spend another, I agree, I think it was close to $50,000 to, move that away. And the other concern I have is 25 years we've done nothing. There's no calamity that befalls us for not doing anything, except that there is a connection to potentially the lagoon properties, which I know members of this board are very anxious to pass on to Selfridge. I don't think that this is a necessary expenditure at this point, and I don't see any harm that befalls the residents for a safely secured cap, and it's really unnecessary in my opinion. And unless it's part of a preparation for sale of the lagoon properties, which again I'm adamantly opposed to, but I'm not sure why the urgency after the 25-year mark, and where the harm is to the residents, just leaving it safely where it is.
Thank you, sir. Any further comments? Trustee Vosberg.
Thank you. I can't imagine this would be here if it were just something people could go and dump some dirt down the hole and fill it up. So I appreciate the explanation that you've already given. I support this, and I support without even knowing what the technical things are behind it. When there's a hole in the ground that goes down 28 feet, it needs to be taken care of if it's no longer used. Thank you.
Thank you, and I'll add to that. I know this location not as well as Trustee Demink. This is a concern. It is open, it is unprotected. It is 28 feet below grade. It leads to areas that my fear is somebody might wander in there one day, and it is nothing but a liability on our plate. So $28,000 is well worth any situation we may face should someone find it or discover it on a search one night. So, Trustee Joseph.
Just a point of clarity. So you said 28,000 is a worthwhile expense to eradicate this potential liability. But as I understood the proposal, 28,000 just gives us a design of whoever it is that's coming in to safely secure the site. There's no way to safely secure the site to eliminate or, mediate the chance of somebody wandering into a 28-foot hole. Like we have to spend $28,000 just to know the cost of the fix, which typically, if the design fees are $28,000, you're typically looking, every time I've seen $28,000 on a design, we're 6 figures for the fix. So do we even have the ability with our in-house engineer to ballpark? And again, I guess this is to you, Supervisor Kersten. Does 28 alleviate the problem, or, as I understood, 28 just gives us the cost of the fix?
28 gives us the cost for the fix. You're correct.
Okay, thank you.
I believe you budgeted $150,000 for this item, 150 grand in this for the capital plan. So 28 can be designed and bid, and then whatever the construction cost would be on top of this.
Thank you. Trustee Anderson.
And am I correct, that would be AEW again, correct?
AEW is doing the design, the construction would be somebody completely different.
Okay, but AEW do design, thank you.
Yes.
Any further comments? Clerk Berry.
Kevin, I see here in our agenda packet materials that in the notes on this item on the financial review, it says $10,000 was included in the 2022 capital improvement plan. Was it that the design work on this was expected to be approximately $10,000? I'm curious as to what that note indicates, because then my follow-up question to that is there a reason why we so underestimated it? Why is it now 28,000 where we were anticipating 10?
So 10 initially was just for the station itself. After looking at more elaborate look at it, making sure all the pipes, so that that'd be like the worst case scenario if there's more pipes involved. They're anticipating worst case scenario if the pipe that goes from that station to the lagoon still exists, and we have to, flow fill that pipe and everything, that cost would incorporate that. If that pipe is not there, that cost would be less.
So as a follow-up then, just so I'm understanding that, basically the scope of the project was expanded?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any further comments from the board? Seeing none, I have a motion by Trustee Dennings, supported by Supervisor Kersten, to approve item 8D. Clerk Berry.
Trustee Demink.
Aye.
Supervisor Kersten.
Aye.
Trustee Anderson.
No.
Trustee Joseph.
No?
Trustee Vosberg.
Aye.
Treasurer Elliott.
Aye.
Clerk Berry. Aye.
Thank you, Kevin. Item 8E.
Item 8E is to approve a recommendation by Public Works to amend the sanitary sewer master plan update to a sanitary sewer master plan feasibility study at a total cost of $21,175.95 from GL number 591-541-801-000.
Do I have a motion to approve item 8E?
Move to approve.
Motion by Trustee Vosberg.
Second.
Supported by Clerk Berry. Mr. O'Connor.
Yes, good evening. We have a brief presentation, and then Kevin and I will be available to answer any questions. So the 3 questions we're going to discuss are why update the sanitary sewer master plan? Why did we request it in the first place? What changed while we were updating the master plan? And then what's next? So the initial request was based on the land zoning map was changed, specifically in the northern quarter of the township. The zoning became more dense. And with more density, the more people, more flow. So updating the sanitary sewer master plan would address the change in land use plan. Shortly after we started the updating of the master plan, Macomb County approached the township with a project to build a relief sewer down 26 Mile Road to serve Washington, Ray, Lenox, parts of Macomb, and potentially parts of Chesterfield. So, oh, wait, I wasn't ready yet. So the county, those Washington, Ray, and Lenox and Macomb need sanitary sewer capacity. So the county has run through some options over the years. The most recent option was to build a relief sewer down 26 Mile Road, starting in Washington, going all the way to roughly Gratiot, and then south half a mile, and tapping into the force mains and the pump stations of the North Gratiot Interceptor. Since we share part of that 26 Mile Road, the county approached us and asked us if we wanted to tap that relief sewer, to gain benefit of the sewer being built there. So that caused us to kind of review that northeast section of the existing master plan and to see, what would happen if we did go to the north, how much it would cost, and, if it was required or necessary. While we were doing that process, we went back to the 2003 agreement for when the North Gratiot Interceptor was completed. And it was determined that we actually had more capacity, and this is kind of a confusing sketch, but if you look at the existing one on the left, the dark purple is what we call CHS3, and that area is currently designed to go into, right near the North Gratiot Interceptor. After we reviewed the document, it was determined that we actually have more capacity and could put more area into that connection, which would make the two districts to the south of it smaller with less flow and potentially eliminate pinch points, flow problems where we would have to build relief sewers if it got fully developed. So what's next? Expected revisions to the meter service district area. CHS3, which is the one to the north, can get bigger now, about 3 times bigger, which could make the two ones to the south smaller and potentially, again, relieve future capacity issues on the existing sewers to the south. So what we'd like to do is finish this master plan, get it completed, and then bring it back to the board with our final findings.
Thank you, sir.
Yep.
Bring it back to the board. Any comments from the board? No comments from the board. Comments from the public?
Clear the deck for you, Paul.
Paul LaFata, 48055 Malin. On August 16, 2021, Eagle gave the Ascension Hospital that's being built on 26 Mile Road a permit to dump into the Crapo Creek. I just wonder if this has anything to do with it, since we're talking about 26 Mile Road. The Crapo Creek, according to a release from the Macomb County Drain Commissioner in 2019, says that she went through the trouble of remapping all of the county's responsible creeks and drainages. And there was 576 of them, and they all are the responsibility of Macomb County Drain Commission. So I'm just wondering how this fits. Back in 2017 at Saw Grant, there was all sewer capacities done, there was no issue. So evidently we must have built up pretty heavily between now and then. I don't know if anybody looked at that documentation. Also, there was a $15,000 expenditure about 2 years ago for the North Gratiot Quadrant. Don't know if that has anything to do with it. And the other thing is we pay Macomb County Drain Commissioner a monthly operations and maintenance fee in every monthly billing, anywhere around, it varies. It goes anywhere from $80,000 up to $97,000, about $1.2 million a year. And I really don't know if the county called us to do something. Somebody explained to me what we get from the county for operations and maintenance for about $1.2 million a year, when we're supposed to expend our, and it's not just to put it into the master plan, from what I understand, it's to give the county this information. So it's kind of convoluted. Is it for the master plan, or is it to give the county some information they're looking for? Thank you.
Is there anything in here you can answer, Mitch?
The Ascension Hospital is completely independent of this project. The Ascension Hospital is on the other side of I-94 and was not included in the county's 26-mile road relief sewer. That sewer is going from Washington Township to roughly Gratiot and then south. Ascension is east of I-94. So Ascension would not benefit from the county's, proposed sewer. I've actually forgotten some of the other questions you had, if you don't mind. I've forgotten some of the other questions you had.
Well, there's some other sewer capacity studies done in the past.
Sir, if you'd step to the mic so we can hear the.
Yeah, okay. And no, there hasn't been that much growth since 2017, but the land use master plan did change. The land use master plan allowed properties to develop more dense. So they weren't built yet, but they could be constructed with, more units per acre, which would generate more flow, which, requires an update to the master plan.
Thank you, Mitch. Any further questions from the public? I'll bring back up to the board. Any further questions, comments from the board? I have a motion by Trustee Vosberg, supported by Clerk Berry, to approve item 8E. Clerk Berry, would you call?
Trustee Vosberg.
Aye.
Clerk Berry, aye. Trustee Anderson.
No.
Trustee Joseph.
No.
Trustee Demink.
Aye.
Treasurer Elliott.
Aye.
Supervisor Kersten.
Aye. Item 8F.
Item 8F is to approve a recommendation by Facilities and Operations Department to prepare property located at 50177 Gratiot Avenue, Chesterfield, Michigan, for sale with a total project cost not to exceed $41,500.
Do we have a motion to approve? Supervisor Kersten will make a motion to approve,
Second.
supported by Clerk Berry. Deputy Duchesne.
The agenda statement continues the process that we've been discussing for some time now. It puts in play the actual next steps in the elimination of this facility, which has been deemed aged and unsuitable for any future use, and provides opportunity for a redesignation development of that area. The photos that have been included of the facility, just for reference for the general public, it is a facility off Gratiot that has served, as I understand, a variety of roles for the township, from originally township offices and part of the general government operations to public works and water and sewer facilities. As you can see, it is quite dated at this point, but the property and land in that area are considered obviously significantly valuable to the future.
Thank you, Deputy Duchesne. Bring it back up to the board. Trustee Joseph.
Yeah, just the board decided to take this property out and solicit bids from potential investors or anybody that wanted to. I was under the impression, and I guess I missed the part where we decided to tear the buildings down. So I thought the bid would go out, kind of as is. Some of the inquiries that I received was there were individuals interested in trying to preserve those buildings. So I was unaware that part of the site preparation involved demolition. So when did we decide that we would prepare the property, raise the buildings, and then put it into the marketplace? And why is that advantageous versus selling the property as is? I was under the impression after some preliminary conversations that the only holdup on sending it out was perhaps updating some environmental studies and making sure that boundaries were properly noted. But I guess I didn't know that we were contemplating the raising of the building. So when did that occur, and who made that call?
I'll take responsibility for that. So right after the board approved the listing this for sale, we toured the site, looked at it, and it just, the buildings were in such a condition that, they just, do we want, the question of value, would it be more valuable to have it just vacant with new buildings on it, or allowing the sale of these buildings, which could drive down the price, potentially, it was thought and discussed, and I basically told them to move forward with preparing a bid to destroy it and seek a flat surface, return it to virgin soil. And along with that came, there were boundary discussions, the ownership. Obviously, there were fuel pumps on there. We dug deeper into what the soil was, obviously, researching that information. I just wanted to make that, make it a complete package for sale when we do finally put a for sale sign in front of it. It's basically virgin soil with boundaries established. Any old structures, I'd like to make them look modern, and whoever buys it. And I think the value is more as virgin soil, as I stated. So that's why it's back in front of the board to move forward with this request.
Yeah, I guess I'm okay if that's the process. We approve the sale of the property, or at least not the sale, but we approve the solicitation of bids on the property. Again, my initial inquiry when we had the board meeting, I started getting calls, hey, when is that going to show up on the township website or mitten, or what's the mechanism for? My call was, what is the holdup? And it was boundary. If there was a subsequent decision, I know personally how busy you are, and I know what your day consists of, but the last guy that sat in that chair used we a lot, and there was no we, it was I. And I would have liked to have had a board discussion about whether or not it is valuable to raise the building and go with the, clean slate, or, and maybe consulted with some real estate experts and got an idea of, but if you've made that call, I support you, and I'll defer to that. But I was under the impression we were just looking at boundaries. So if that's the decision that the board wants to go, I'm okay with that. But thanks.
Comments, further comments? Comments from the public?
Paul Afado, 48055 Mallard. Since I spent some time this morning doing some reading, from what I understand from past board meetings, our legal counsel said that we can put that piece of property up. If we get offers that aren't satisfactory, we don't have to take them. I don't understand, and this is another project that wasn't in the budget, that's just going to add to the budget deficit. It's going to add $41,000. We really don't know if it's going to increase the value by $41,000, and I don't see why it can't be put off, why the property can't be put out for sale. Like I said, legal counsel says if we don't get a offer that is conducive to what we think it's worth, we can reject it. So right away, it seems like every time we want to do something, we just rush forward and we spend the money. And we don't think the process through, because we could spend $41,000 and not get an increase in value at all. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Any further comments from the public?
John Spica, 53978 Connor Drive. Here's another example of Chesterfield spending money that we don't have. We're adding another $41,500 to the deficit, our operating deficit that we have. The part that amazes me the most is, there was a vote from the board to go ahead and accept bids, and now this comes in front of us again, and now the supervisor decided that, that if we knock the building down, which wasn't part of the discussion originally, that it's going to raise the value of the property. Well, I've got a question for the supervisor. Based on what facts and data did that come from? So if you could list your sources for me, I would appreciate it, because if it is going to raise the value of the property, I mean, absolutely we'd be for it. But shooting from the hip and saying maybe it may and maybe it won't, that doesn't work for me. The other question that I have is, we've got a salt dome on that property. what are your intentions? Where is the new salt dome going to go? Because that's a convenient location for our township employees to fill and refill, and it's easy access. So buying bags of salt is going to be a lot more expensive than utilizing that salt dome that we have. So I'd like to hear on where the intentions are for the new salt dome. And I'm totally against spending the $41.5 unless it truly raises the value of that property. If it doesn't, then this should be a no vote. Thank you.
Further comments from the public? Any further comments from the public? Bring it back up to the board. Trustee Anderson.
Thank you. Yeah, I supported the sale of this property. It's been, I don't know how long the township has had possession of it. Former water board, police station, other activities have been in there, salt buildings. It just seems like we can't talk about gaining money for the township without spending money. And I personally think there should be some attempt to see what is this property worth in its current condition. I know Willis, I believe it was Willis Music up there by 21 Mile Road a few years ago. They closed, and you got a donut shop there, and I remember being on ZBA. They needed a variation for the drive around. And I thought that piece of property was like $400,000, as I recall. It was valued at that size a lot, which is considerably, I believe, smaller than this. But I just can't see we're in such a hurry. I mean, we had it since right after the earth cooled, and we still have it. If we couldn't postpone it a while, maybe get some, that was my understanding, have some bids on this. What is it worth with those buildings and that? Thank you.
Any further comments from the board? I have a motion by Supervisor Kersten, supported by Clerk Berry, to approve item 8F. Clerk Berry.
Supervisor Kersten.
Aye.
Clerk Berry, aye. Trustee Anderson.
No.
Trustee Joseph.
Aye.
Trustee Demink.
Aye.
Treasurer Elliott.
Aye.
Trustee Vosberg.
Aye.
Thank you. Item 8G. Clerk Berry.
Item 8G is to renew the annual 2022 membership for SEMCOG at a cost of $6,162 from GL number 101-248-828-000.
Move to approve.
Support.
Motion by Trustee Vosberg, supported by Treasurer Elliott, to approve item 8G. Comments from the board? Trustee Joseph.
Yeah, I asked for this to be considered separately as opposed to being on the consent agenda for really one main reason. I don't know the value at this point of SEMCOG in terms of what our delegates are bringing back to the board. There was a time in our township's history where we were members of SEMCOG, and then we stopped being members of SEMCOG because it was felt by the board at that time that there was no value. When I got involved with SEMCOG, I saw the value and I advocated for a return. But when I was the appointed delegate, not only did I attend the General Assembly meetings, which were quite nice, they were usually at a nice event with nice food and a lot of nice people, but there's something there called the SEMCOG University. There's also grant writing opportunities, which I participated in and worked with our DPW at the time to look at potential grant opportunities. I don't know if those things are occurring anymore, and because we don't get a lot of feedback on what it is that SEMCOG does to enrich our community. Certainly there is a lot of information that can be gathered, but back when, I'm going back about 10 years, and I think yeah, Trustee Vosberg was, I believe at that time, maybe even SEMCOG chair, you know, sort of around that space. And so it was during those discussions when I said, hey, there is a lot to be gained from SEMCOG membership, but I remember talking with the administrative team there, and the answer was yes, there is, if you are fully engaged. So your members have to go and extract from SEMCOG what benefits there are to take back to your community. You can't simply just show up at the General Assemblies and, you know, enjoy the event. There has to be some feedback. What do we get out of it? Again, I don't know if, I'm not alleging that we're not getting it. I'm just saying we're not getting regular feedback on what those benefits are. It sometimes doesn't even involve the delegates that are there. It might involve, you know, the benefit of, say, our DPW workers. And I know Kevin at one time utilized it to research the Phragmites. And so there was a gain that was well documented and constantly reported. And I haven't seen that in some time. I haven't seen updates regarding the benefit of SEMCOG. It's not a cheap membership, and it does require some feedback on what we get. And so just putting it on the consent agenda and rubber stamping it, to me, was not satisfactory. And I'd like to hear from our delegates on what it is that they feel is of great benefit and how they've brought back information from SEMCOG before I can approve the expenditure or vote to approve the expenditure. Thank you.
I'll make a quick reply to that. When I first was appointed supervisor, the previous supervisor was in a key position there. And I actually just haven't had the time to get involved in it and reassume that role. Immediately, Trustee Vosberg took up that slack, and Treasurer Elliott took up that slack, just to where actually the upcoming invitation for the March meeting, I actually registered for and plan on getting further involved. So that's my position and my take on it. I do, the 2 meetings that I did attend, I saw value there. It's just I've been so busy that I haven't really been engaged in that level of, with SEMCOG to fill the last position that we held there. So with that, am I missing anything, Trustee Vosberg or Treasurer Elliott?
So, although the supervisor hasn't had as much time as I think he'd like to, his assistant we constantly talk about the information shared at SEMCOG and make sure that any kind of grants that are happening or classes that are being attended, that those are getting attended by the correct person, and we're always looking and making sure that the folks are engaged through the supervisor's office. So I know that, I believe, was it last week, and I'll let Trustee Vosberg, I believe it was last week that Kevin and her attended an event, webinar. And if Trustee Joseph has any suggestions for analytics and documentation that you had done before that you'd like to see, I think that would be helpful, is what you're expecting and how you would like to see more information shared. And I'm glad that you did request that today, and I think that's a great request, and we'll make sure and get you that information, I think, going forward. A little bit better job of that. Didn't know that you had those expectations, and if you have any other suggestions in regards to that, please share them.
Trustee Vosberg.
Thank you. Regarding getting information, a lot of times when the email comes telling about a webinar or a class or some kind of event, I would forward it to the various departments that I thought would benefit from that. And then I had asked them if all the elected officials are on that distribution list, and I was told they were. So if you are not getting regular emails from them, I'll make sure your name gets on there. Do you get emails from them? I mean, we get a lot of emails from a lot of organizations, but when we take the time to read them, we can see who it might relate to and who could benefit. Are you on that list?
I'm not sure which emails you're specifically talking.
From SEMCOG, emails from SEMCOG.
No, I don't have direct emails from SEMCOG regarding, you're talking about like committees and so forth, or?
Yeah, anything, all right, then I'll make sure you are, because it's my understanding all electeds were on that distribution list. But I know that often when I send, the employees do attend, there are employees who attend various things on a regular basis.
Thank you, Trustee Vosberg. Trustee Joseph, please.
Yeah, just a final point on this. There's no allegations that, we're not using it. My concern is what comes back to the board. And as the police liaison or the library liaison, if there is a meeting of significance in between board meetings, that is board reports. That is something that, we heard from Leisure Services, we heard from the Historical Society, and I would like to hear from SEMCOG. I realize that maybe they don't have meetings every month, but there are a number of committees. And with regard to SEMCOG University, there is tremendous data, and it can be utilized in a multitude of ways, but there is a training process that you need to undergo to really extract the data. And one of the data sets that I think could have been helpful in a number of areas, but when we are looking at the non-motorized path, when I was there was a specific committee for the non-motorized path, and it looked at connectivity, which is something that we've debated and contested here. We know that we have sidewalk gaps, and SEMCOG provides expert services to come in and assess those things. We use SEMCOG with the Water and Sewer Rate Advisory Committee to look at flows and expected growth, and so SEMCOG University is access to a website. So I would whoever our delegate is, inquire about the certification process or the training to utilize SEMCOG University. And then, Mr. Supervisor, I appreciate you kind of falling on the sword for. I never got any information from the supervisor previously, but he wasn't our delegate. The delegate was, I was one for a time, and I believe Trustee Vosberg and now Treasurer Elliott are the delegates. So maybe just incorporating updates on maybe a monthly basis on SEMCOG happenings and how the residents benefit from the admission fees would be great.
Thank you. And I will get better at that, and also participating in the upcoming event. Any comments from the public?
John Spica, 53978 Connor Drive. Mr. Supervisor, on this one here, you're not at fault here. The previous supervisor made Treasurer Elliott the liaison for SEMCOG, and Trustee Vosberg as a fill-in. So there's been no change there. That still plays out today. So as far as not getting information, that falls, again, on Treasurer Elliott and Trustee Vosberg. I don't remember an update from SEMCOG from, Treasurer Elliott or Trustee Vosberg, and I can't tell you in how long. And as far as Treasurer Elliott saying we constantly share information, well, you don't share information with the public, so we're your employers right here. You need to share the information with us. Using this excuse on getting the email and not getting the email doesn't work for me. Because if you're going to send emails out to the public and provide that information, then I want to be added to your email list. That's unacceptable. And that money that we're using, if it benefits Chesterfield, I'm for it. I have no problems with it. But we've got two liaisons. We've got one that's a primary, and then we've got a fill-in. So the responsibility lies on Treasurer Elliott and Trustee Vosberg for, not providing the information to the residents. So if we're going to move forward and proceed and approve this, then the residents need to be informed. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further comments from the public?
As you can see, I did a lot of reading. Paul Lafata, 48055 Mallard. 2021, you go on the SEMCOG website, you get all the meeting minutes, you get a lot of good information. Chesterfield Township in 2021, we achieved the promotion of the Brandenburg Park and the Weber Paddle Park photo ops. Along on that website is the paperwork that was submitted by Chesterfield Township's Administrative Service Department. But for 2021, our return on investment for being part of SEMCOG was 2 photo ops, one at Brandenburg Park, one at the Weber Paddle Park. Currently, right now, SEMCOG has got a water quality initiative for the Great Lakes. And one of the things that would be ideal for the township to get involved in is the cleanup of the PFAS in the Clinton River. But we don't look at really looking at the real nitty-gritty environmental stuff. We look at how many photo ops we can get scheduled through SEMCOG. We should utilize that for better reasons. Thank you.
Any further comments from the public?
Joe Catich, I live in Sutton. I see a value in belonging to SEMCOG, but the value you get from it depends on what you put into it. And what I see so far is we're not putting anything into it. I was kind of heartened when I think Trustee Vosberg was nominated to work on the PFAS committee with SEMCOG. The only report we got was a wrong report saying that our water doesn't have any PFAS in it because we get our water from Lake Huron, which is wrong. Now, to me, living in this area, getting our water from Great Lakes, we should be working with whatever the tools they give you or whatever are working together down there to try and eliminate the PFAS. The biggest part of it is from Selfridge. Now, if you look at the Selfridge sustainability study that they put together, all 64 pages, one of the first items in the first paragraph is that somebody from Selfridge gets nominated to work at the CCOB committee. And why are they doing it? So they can figure out how in the hell they don't have to do whatever they have to do to eliminate the PFAS.
Is this relevant to the SEMCOG
Pardon me?
agenda item? Is this relevant to the SEMCOG agenda item?
All I'm saying is.
We're not talking about
we
PFAS.
get, well, there must be some value to it if Selfridge seems to need, they have
Address
to
the
insert
SEMCOG
themselves
issue.
into it.
You have
And
a
we're not
comment
going
on
to,
the
get
SEMCOG
any
issue?
value from it unless we put in what we want to get from it. And I guess what I'm getting at is, what do you want from SEMCOG? Is PFAS an issue with us? Is anything else, like what's coming out with that Selfridge, with the noise issues coming out, is any of that going to be an issue that we should involve ourselves in? Or are we just going to go by the old standby that, oh, we signed off on the continuation of Selfridge? I think somebody should get off their duff and figure out what we want to do, where we stand, and what we're going to stand for. And go in there, if we're going to tackle PFAS, go in there and be a part of the group that's going to tackle it and give some help to get rid of it. If you're going to do the job, do it. If not, then don't worry about it. Just don't pay the $6,000.
Thank you, sir. Any further comments from the public? I'll bring it back up to the board. Trustee Vosberg.
I hesitate to reply because I don't like to reply to things that aren't relevant, and some of the things that are brought up aren't even true. I understand the request for more reports. That's a valid request to get more information on some of the things that go on. There are many things that go on. We have an employee who is part of a committee that's being worked on. Let me pull this up a minute. The Water Infrastructure Task Force. That's a huge committee that they talk about the infrastructure of the whole 7-county area and what that means to us. And it includes inventories of what issues do we have here in Chesterfield, what is it that we need, and often out of these become grant opportunities because they'll see an awareness of a need and will petition various federal organizations, state organizations for the need to pass legislation and or grants for these things. These things go on all the time. That's what it's about. We have people participating. Stuff does come back to the township. There are many things that we have been involved in and we've benefited from it. The one takeaway from this is a need for more information at the board level. Happy to provide that. The rest, many things that have been spoken publicly are just absolutely not true. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Vosberg. Trustee Anderson.
Yeah, it was interesting when this current item was first discussed. I went back about close to 9 years ago, and I recall Trustee Joseph was championing, kind of speaking very much in favor of SEMCOG, and I recall Trustee Demink, very adamant, wanted to know, he wanted a guarantee what would come back to this board, as I recall, in likewise, you know, what would offset, what would make it worthwhile setting aside this type of money. And I don't know if you entered in Trustee Joseph with a contract that was written in blood or what, because you were pretty strong on that. And question I have, I want you to answer and get done. Did we get the returns you were hoping to get back in that day? But hold on. Moving forward, here's some great points. We make our reports from our committees and we get the emails. How do we share with the public? Maybe a short 5-minute, when our comments are for the elected officials, or make a short report. You know, when you do have the meeting, just kind of let the public know, you know, what's going on with SEMCOG and how it benefits, or it could be maybe some do it maybe less than beneficial to the township as these things play out. And that's just my opinion on it. Thank you.
Trustee Joseph.
Yeah, I can answer your question, Trustee Anderson, because Trustee Demink, when I proposed the SEMCOG, he voted for it, and he said, you get 1 year. And we've been SEMCOG members ever since, because we did show through exactly what Trustee Vosberg is talking about, the utilization of township employees that were able to engage SEMCOG in various areas, and not to dredge old information, but the connectivity in the township has been a big issue for decades. And I remember taking some SEMCOG maps over to an individual that runs, it's actually in New Baltimore, but the Anchor Bay Bike Shop, and we collaborated on that. I came back to the board, and there was constant reports, and I very much appreciate Trustee Vosberg's comments, which are what I suspected, which is it's not as if the work isn't being done, it's that maybe there's a better way and a more active way of sharing it with the public, so you know what you're paying for, and the idea that it is your money, and we do work for you, and so communicating that to the public is hopefully where we go, and I think after tonight's conversation it will. I still believe SEMCOG is a very valuable resource, but let's have some assurances for the customer, our bosses, that their money is being well spent. And again, I don't need like a PowerPoint or anything like that, but if you have attended a meeting or you're aware of the township employees who are working, just make that part of your board reports that we have the opportunity to do at the beginning of every board meeting. Nothing elaborate, just an indicator that the taxpayers and our bosses are getting their money's worth. So I'm satisfied, and I appreciate Trustee Vosberg's comments.
Thank you. Trustee Treasurer.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. Just to clarify a few things, I did give a PowerPoint presentation after I attended the General Assembly meeting here. We did receive an award from SEMCOG on the Weber Paddle Park, and we had a big presentation here at this board meeting for that, and the supervisor was a part of that. Members of SEMCOG met with the supervisor regarding transportation. I believe that was in the summertime. I believe that most people here on the board are receiving emails, but they may not, they may get lost in other emails. I find it kind of interesting that we're concentrating on this particular organization, but not surprised. There is a lot of valuable things as far as parks, as far as pathways, as far as fresh water, and organizations, and learning to work with other municipalities. Most of the employees receive SEMCOG emails, and they register themselves for a lot of those free webinars. So I don't know, I think maybe that's an HR thing that we could ask them to start reporting and then bring that back to the board that way, because I don't know how else you would be able to track those numbers. And I just wanted to clarify those things. Thank you.
Trustee Demink.
I like what SEMCOG does, and Dave's correct. We went at it over When the first time he joined it, and then when he brought it up the next year, I supported it because David was bringing back information. So, yes, so even though David and I had our moments up here, we did agree on those things, and we've been there since. So, Mr. Anderson, yes, you were correct on everything you stated. You remember that correctly, sir.
Thank you. Simple fix on my behalf, you'll start getting some COG emails and updates from the supervisor's office. I have a motion by Trustee Vosberg, supported by Treasurer Elliott, to approve item 8G. Clerk Berry.
Trustee Vosberg.
Aye.
Treasurer Elliott.
Aye.
Trustee Anderson.
Aye.
Trustee Joseph.
Aye.
Trustee Demink.
Aye.
Supervisor Kersten.
Aye.
Clerk Berry, aye.
Item 9, public hearings, there are none. Item 10, there are no addendums. Item 11, public comments. Public comments, 5-minute time limit. Please speak your name or when you begin speaking. The clock will start.
Okay. Paul Lafata, 48055 Mallard. Back in 2020, there were warnings that there was a lot of non-essential expenditures being made and the possibility of an economic downturn. I think if you turn on the news today, you'll find out that today's economic effects, stock markets dropped in the last 3 months, 2,000 points. And the Fed's inflation rate is ambiguous. In reality, it's double digits. Cost of living, goods, services are escalating daily. The cost of gasoline at the pump has gone up $1.50 a gallon, and it's continuing to climb. Goods and services required to run the township and the rising cost of gasoline at the pumps, the township's not exempt from these rising prices and costs, inflation, and everything else. Chesterfield Township continues to suffer at every board meeting. The last board meeting on February 28th, we added another $500,000 to the annual budget deficit, Supervisor Accavetti created the legacy of growing government, park projects, non-essential expenditures. The effects on the 2022 operational budget, the expenditures are greater than the revenues. And what it's doing is it's claiming millions of dollars from the township's general fund balance. Starting in 2022, there's a new variant in the township. It's called denial that we have an annual budget deficit, and it climbs and increases at every board meeting. The words budget deficit must have a different connotation or meaning in the public sector government. Today, even more, budget amendments increase at every board meeting. In the private sector, major corporations do not tolerate repetitive annual operating deficits. Operating deficit in 2020, projected operation deficit 221, projected for 2022, and projected for 2023. Person responsible in the private sector best have their resumes updated. What's going on cannot be cured with vaccines from Pfizer, Johnson, or Moderna. What needs to be done is there needs to be a cure. The cure is disciplined management and essential spending. Spending accurately, accurate costs, not projected and then follow up with engineering changes. Cost tracking, metrics, department management, data-driven continuous improvement process to make a controlled positive change. Nothing's changing, we just keep going this way. And it's just simple math. I sit there and I write, I look at the budget and I write, and we're going this way, we're not going that way, and there's nothing showing me that we're gonna turn the tides. Thank you.
Thank you. Further comments from the public?
Good evening, board members and Chesterfield Township residents. My name is John Spica. I reside at 53978 Connor Drive. In the, what Treasurer LaFata just talked about, in the private sector, well, 4 of you probably would be out of a job right now in the private sector, so. Mr. Supervisor, can you update the residents on the Plant Moran water study? I've asked at least 4 times on it. The residents paid $10,700 for the study, and if you can't take time at a board meeting to update us on that, if you could put it online, I'd appreciate it, because I'd like to read that. I know at the last township meeting, it sounded like you wanted me to FOIA it. So as a resident, I've already paid for that study, and everybody in this room's paid for that study, so I shouldn't have to FOIA something that should be made public. And the other question that I have, Mr. Supervisor, is maybe you can address this and help me understand this. Is our facilities and operation manager, Josh Sonnenberg, taking the new vehicle home at night? So if you could address that, that's a simple yes or no. I would appreciate it. And Mr. Supervisor, do you have a plan? I haven't heard a plan to address our annual budget deficit. Right now, if my math is correct, which I believe it is, we're operating at over a $4 million annual budget deficit. So if you could address a plan on how you plan on tackling that, besides selling property, if that's part of the plan, I'd like to know. I would appreciate it. And Treasurer Elliott, can you mark your calendar next year? I'm in full support of Black History Month, but the issue that I had with that is we did a proclamation for it at the end of the month. So I would like to recognize the whole month of February, not the last 3 days of February as Black History Month, because it's very important. And based on, listening to your explanation, Treasurer Elliott, on SEMCOG, I guess the new term is going to be, I believe, that's equivalent to I don't recall. So the I believe, the last time that I don't recall you giving an update to the residents in over a year on SEMCOG. So, Clerk Berry, February was another tough month for you. So, less than 2 hours all month in the office is unacceptable, as one of your bosses here. If I'm incorrect on that, please let me know. We're paying you over $8,000 a month for 2 hours. I mean, we don't even pay our attorney that. So the average Chesterfield resident works 160 hours a month and makes between $2,000 and $2,500 in their household budget. And at the last township board meeting, we added, like Treasurer LaFata said, another $500,000 to our annual budget deficit, operating deficit. And Mr. Supervisor, just one quick thing. This is a simple fix. I asked a while ago if you can get that soap dispenser in the men's restroom fixed. If Josh has to subcontract that out, but there's plenty of capable employees here at Chesterfield that can get that fixed, because it's nice to have soap when you're done using the restroom. So if we can get that addressed, I'd appreciate it. Thank you. And one other thing is, all of us, I'm asking everybody to pray for the war that's going on in Ukraine, for our Ukrainian friends, neighbors, and overseas. They are true freedom fighters, fighting for democracy and freedom. So if we could pray for them in this war, I would appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further comments from the public?
Joe Cadiz, live on Sutton. Want to get back to some of my previous comments about SEMCOG. I brought that up because when I started reading, and I read it before, it didn't have the impact that it did now, the sustainability study for Selfridge, or their environmental impact study. There's a lot there that people on this board that authorized and signed off for Selfridge to continue on in the sustainability study, and welcoming me F-35s did it without any background or any looking at what's going on there. Paul and I talked about this before you did that. We asked that you have a town hall and let the people know what's going on. That never happened. And now things are starting to happen with Selfridge. I don't think they're going to get this pilot training and foreign sales thing here, but there's going to be F-35s coming here, and they're preparing for it. And as I said before, one of their key things in their first statement was to have somebody from Selfridge joining SEMCOG. Why? Because they want to influence what they need. You go through their impact study, they say nothing about this PFAS. When General Manaman was here, he went through his little dog and pony show. He didn't really say that they were reducing it. He pretty much said they didn't think they were going to be able to reduce it. Now that affects not only us, that affects everybody who gets water. It's already affected the water that New Baltimore gets and Mount Clemens gets in Harrison Township. Now we're sitting here with saying, you know, we want delegates to SEMCOG, but we're not doing anything when we're there to lead the way or show what we want done. The other thing, Paul just reminded me, you on the website put up the presentation that General Mammon put on here, but you didn't include the impact study that should go along with it to let the residents know. In there's all kinds of things showing the maps of the areas that are going to be affected. And basically, if you look at the noise issue, it projects only about 1.5 miles in, but 1.5 miles each side. And it gets lesser as it goes out, but it's there. But in there, they say that they're going to protect Harrison Township because they got the same situation there. Even though they don't take off over Harrison Township, the noise they know is going to travel that way. So they're going to shorten the runway. Protecting them, they're not protecting us. People in this township are going to be really, really hurt when this happens, and they should know. They also talked about what we talked about, what happened in Burlington, Vermont. They're suggesting ways of getting subsidies or grants to provide sound insulation to homes and schools and everything because of that sound level. Nobody here wants to talk about that. Now, you should be supporting the people in this community, not letting go blindly and say, oh, we didn't know that was going to happen. It's there. I suggest you put that environmental impact study up there. It's 64 pages long, a lot to read. But there's a lot of issues in there that you should know about and you should be fighting against. I wish you would do that. I wish you'd set up a town hall to educate the people and not just put it on, oh, we're going to have a town hall. Send out letters to everybody saying, this is going to affect you. If you want to know about it, educate the people here. You have an obligation to protect the people in this township. Thank you.
Any further comments from the public?
Mike Orton, 50393 Bauer. A couple of things I wanted to say. One is to the clerk's office. I wanted to know whether or not there will ever be any type of looking into the possibility of the township ever experimenting with ranked choice voting in the foreseeable future for any format of elections, whether or not that would be plausible with the way we conduct our elections. And the other thing that I wanted to address is what Mr. LaFata had brought up was an interesting point about because of the increase in the rise of the cost of fuel, whether it be diesel or gasoline, how this will affect the budgeted amounts of money for the township fleet of vehicles, as well as any other types of fuel consumption methods like diesel-powered generators or any other fuel-consuming devices within the township. It is not without possibility that in the coming weeks and months we are looking at $5 to $6 range for normal gasoline and furthermore for diesel. It should definitely start to be reflected for elastic budgeting for such a foreseeable event, because we've seen it rise in the last 2 weeks, at least $1. It's time to really start on figuring out whether or not we're properly budgeting for the foreseeable future. And it doesn't seem like it adds up, but it does add up over time. Hundreds of dollars turns into thousands, turns into tens of thousands over the course of a year. And that will add up over time, especially when you take into account all township vehicles. Aside from that, it does look like for the foreseeable future, we will be seeing a lot of economic pains. And, we just came out of the pandemic, and now we are dealing with the double-digit inflation due to Fed monetary policies and unnecessary formats of government spending, and now from the federal government, and now we're going to see an exacerbation of a lot of this, where I guess most everyone in this room, I assume, is going to be getting a $400 check from the state regarding auto insurance payments, and it may be good in the short term, but we also know that all this money in the economy will also lead to further more inflation within the state of Michigan. It's going to be probably difficult over the next few months, especially with the foreign entanglements we are watching on the news every night. Are we in a state of emergency for the foreseeable future, or are we barriered or protective enough from such incidents for all township services to be protected in such a manner? Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Any further comments from the public?
I just wanted to end the meeting by saying thank you again. I think what we saw tonight was a good example of civics in action, as Ms. Vosberg always says. So with all the various women and businesses and just some of the different comments from the board and how we're looking at things differently and the interactions, as I take a look back at my almost 20 years in Chesterfield and I look at where we are now, we're making strides to be where we need to be each and every day. So I just wanted to thank everyone for trying to take a look at things from different points of view. I can see that we're bringing inclusion in more into the board, and I like to see that as well. So again, thanks again. I will agree with Speaker that we did give the proclamation on the last 2 days, so hopefully next time we can give it on the first. But I do appreciate the fact that we had a proclamation, and it was well intended and very much appreciated as well. So thank you all so much and have a good evening.
Thank you, ma'am. Any further comments from the public? Seeing no further comments from the public, I'll bring back up to the board. Trustee Anderson, you're first.
Okay, first thing, I did not support the check run for this month, and the main reason was the $85,000 been citing for Spalding D. Decker, due them. Not begrudging that that company for what they've been charged with to do in our township. A majority of this board agreed with it. I know Trustee Joseph and I did not from the get-go, and the biggest issue I have with it, and I can't speak for you, sir, but I think we agree on it, is the baked-in 25% that is added onto the resident as part of this sidewalk repair program that they have. And I'm always concerned about our residents. Not all the residents are gross pointers with money falling out of their ears. There may be people that are financially tied. How are they going to pay their taxes? Could this be added onto a tax bill? It's 25% if they can't pay it. Could this board be responsible for some of our residents having liens placed on their property? I have a lot of trouble with that. And that's an action of this board doing it. The big picture, there's something called the big picture. What does everything lead to in that picture? I think it was 3 years ago or so, during one of our meetings, there was some debate about, I think, BJ's construction going on, and a gentleman sat in that corner very politely all through the meeting. And when it come up to public comments, he identified himself as he was a colonel. I was a lieutenant colonel from Selfridge. And I believe it's safe to us, we all support Selfridge. We support our national security. Unfortunately, I think I believe our township's getting a big hit on what's going on. The county as a whole may benefit, but I don't believe Chesterfield is getting a fair shake. And this colonel, what he basically said, he made reference to the construction going over by BJ's, and he just says, well, you're not going to have anything over 50 feet, are you? That's a considerable distance from that runway. Township property, a developer's property, don't have anything more than 50 feet. Treasurer LaFada, former Treasurer LaFada, I appreciate, as Ms. Merriweather and several others, I appreciate what you bring to the podium. Tremendous knowledge, wisdom. You mentioned at I think your last trip, you basically, the way I took it, kind of, I guess I could term it deficit spending that this board may be engaged in. And as I said a couple of meetings ago, maybe you're wrong, because all will happen come budget time, we'll just increase the administrative fees on public safety and your water and sewer funds and dump them in the general fund. So there'll be no deficit, and it'll continue. It'll continue. Each board, each time, there'll be more money taken out of it. And by the time we, as this township cries uncle, everyone on this board will be gone. They'll leave another board to worry about it down the road. It's happened in other communities. I see it happening here. Every time we're spending money that we don't have budgeted. Do we need all these things? When we spend it on these other things, when we have something worthwhile come by, I just have a lot of trouble. Final thing, Kevin Johnson, I wish you well. I personally, anytime I talk to Kevin, I felt that he more than adequate, and I wish him well in his new assignment. And congratulations to those that spoke today in the awards to him. You're well deserved, and I'm glad our board is doing that, because after all, you are our bosses. You know, we gotta remember that, and you gotta let us know that too. If you have a problem with it, that's what that podium's for. Before there's a movement to shut you down to 3 minutes at the beginning of the meeting, so, you know, try to quiet people down, because certain individuals may not want to hear that. Please show up, and if you're out there in TV land and watching one of the 130-some people that may be checking the YouTube tonight of the meeting, let us know. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Trustee Joseph?
I'm gonna start with something very positive, and I want to say thank you to the ladies in attendance tonight. Some of your faces are very familiar here, and you don't miss many meetings. And those who are new to us, the fact that you stayed way past the issue that involved you is it is very nice. It is very nice because the more people involved and the more people that stay engaged, the better government we have in this community. So thank you for staying and participating, and I'm glad we were able to recognize the tremendous work that is done. Following up with Trustee Anderson's concerns about the projection and the concerns about Selfridge. He said something very, very consistent with resident Kadich. And Mr. Kadich said it a little bit more strongly, but he believes that the township residents are going to be hurt, that their quality of life is in peril. And the more research that I do, the more concerns that I think require answers. I think a conclusionary statement may be premature, but certainly the ability to have those questions answered is, really overdue. And I know your frustration, because I know the request for the town hall was made 2 years ago. I continue to make it. When General Mammon came in, one of the things he said is, I can't imagine the challenges of his day, like what his day looks like, and with hostilities and war breaking out, I got to imagine he's more busy than he was when he came in. So I did email him after the meeting, and I asked him for the town hall, and I asked him for an opportunity to take advantage of the tour, that, the invitation to come out to the base. He did respond. He indicated that he would invite the entire board, that he thought that was a more appropriate invitation to extend, and I'm grateful to take any invitation. I'm hesitant to keep bombarding him with questions. I don't know where else to go with them, but I don't want to take away from his day, and I don't want to be a burden to him. But there are tremendous concerns, and what we can't do, and it is politically savvy to wave the flag and support blindly everything, from the military and the base. That is a very patriotic sentiment. The question becomes, what is the ability for the township to remain sustainable, and how do we represent our residents, which is our charge? So if you have an erosion of the south end of the township, and we see it, you don't have to be heavily connected to see the example that Trustee Anderson raised, and our desire as quickly as we can to surrender the lagoon properties. The Six Rivers presentation, the closing of, the deal's not going to be around for long, and the rush, that we have to surrender our property rights in a great way is troubling. It is very, very troubling to me, because it seems that there are people who are convinced that the best thing to do is take the south end of the township and create Selfridge North. And it's from a political strategy, it works great. You just patriotism and the flag, and I support the military, and I just keep repeating the sound of freedom. But if the sound of freedom is 135 decibels, that's not compatible with human existence. That's our reality. So to ask the question, will that aircraft bring that level of noise and the decibel levels, I think is a fair question to ask, and it deserves to be answered. I've asked people from the county. I've asked Mr. Pash, the environmental impact guy at Selfridge, and I've asked General Mammon for a dedicated town hall. And I don't know who else to go to, so I'm going to do this. I'm going to schedule a town hall. This is your house, and I'm going to spend my own money to invite people that are close in proximity to the base, and I'm going to share the information that I have gathered. It's not an expert opinion. It is simply a culmination of data that has been gathered from other communities that have experienced like problems. And I'm going to try to answer as many questions as I can, and I will send invitations to all of the members of the county and the base and environmental experts, and I'll invite them all, and then I'll just sit and say nothing. I'll let the residents who are interested, but there has to be a call to action to answer some of these questions. It has to. And the concerns that you raise and the questions of who's representing you in these discussions are valid. The concerns about the continual deficit and the problems that occur with our trajectory going in the wrong direction, I'm not prepared to lay that entire mess at the feet of the current supervisor. He's been very diplomatic when he says, no, it's not quite that way, but he got a lot of unfunded mandates, and anybody who was here before the previous supervisor left, there were groans when I said that I felt as though the tenure had been likened to that of an expensive meal. We ate well, we ordered the great wine, we had dessert and appetizers, and he left before the bill showed up. The guy in the chair is here to pay the bill, and it's difficult, especially when we have the continuation. Some board members call that a vision. A vision. The vision is more unsustainable and inability to maintain parkland, the growing of government, the employees that were sadly referred to as a distinction. Our employees actually called individuals who got to go out on the boat on Friday afternoon boat-worthy employees, and then the drones who were back here carrying out. It was a totally lopsided. Treasurer LaFata referred to that as all employees are equal, but some are more equal than others. And that was a very accurate, that is the culture that the new supervisor walked into. And the question about the take-home vehicle was raised at the last board meeting. Immediately after that board meeting, I asked the supervisor directly, do we have employees that have take-home vehicles? Are these vehicles with decals, and is there a take-home vehicle in the F&O department? The answer is no. I do not believe that any employee has a take-home vehicle other than those in the emergency realm. So there are some who need to be at the scene immediately, and they need to go from their location to the scene, and those are typically law enforcement and our fire chief. But I don't believe that there is anything outside of those realms that have take-home vehicles. So I don't believe that's accurate, but you asked it to somebody else, so I'll defer to the final answer there. The other thing I would like residents to know is on the Chesterfield Fire Department Facebook page, last week we had a report of those who live in the Stonehenge area, a pump station that had failed. And the pump station was taking on water and substantial amounts of water and could not be corrected. It could not be repaired. It was very dangerous. The water was 16 feet, and then when you uncovered the manhole, it was 12 feet from grade, 12 feet to the water level. The water level was another 16 feet to the pump. I encourage everybody to take a look at the firefighters, the fire department's Facebook page, and look at the operation that was performed out there. Because you have invested in specialized training and rescue, we have personnel in the fire department who were able to go down into that hole with scuba gear and the equipment to keep those individuals safe. But you know, you're a firefighter. You're not risking your safety for any human that's in the hole. You're doing it for the good of the community. So this trained firefighter, he goes down 12 feet into a hole, meets water, and then another 16 feet of water. He's in front of an open pipe, and he inserts I guess, I don't know, to make you know the technical term, the balloon or a device that is then blown up. It stops the water flow, allows the water to be pumped out, so now we can get access to the pump. This is an example of what I talked about at budget time being a reciprocal service that was provided by the fire department. What residents are hopefully becoming more aware of are the administrative fees that are paid from the special assessment district and the fire department and police department to the general fund or to general fund employees. So HR services, payroll services, those things are deducted from what you pay for public safety and returned to the general fund. Those fees have continued to grow for many years, and they are in the neighborhood of $500,000 between the fire department, police, and the DPW. Those administrative fees are seen as really a small portion of what administrative services these departments utilize, but there's never a reciprocal bill. So the fire department has 13 individuals out at a scene scuba diving 28 feet below grade into 16 feet of dark water, and Craig Miller did not submit a bill to the general fund for the 13 rescue workers that were at the scene. We should eliminate these administrative fees. I've advocated it for years, and it's a one-sided relationship. When general fund does anything to assist public safety, there's a bill, and it's a big bill. It's now in the neighborhood of 5 patrolmen or 5 firefighters line items, and hopefully I was hoping it would have went away at this last budget cycle. It didn't. Another example of lopsided relationship, and nothing from this rescue worker. I ran into him, young guy, beautiful family, wife, child, and he said he didn't tell his wife about the operation until it was all done, because she would just panic. But the commitment to the community, there was no bill. There was no bill, no administrative fee for that, and the residents that live in that area greatly benefited. So, another example of lopsidedness in the township. The last thing I wanted to point out the conversation that we had about SEMCOG was valuable. Again, this was an agenda item that it was on the consent agenda, meaning it would have just been approved with no discussion had it been left there. I think it's important in the way that Trustee Demink just said, listen, you get 1 year. You get 1 year. Return on the investment, or I don't vote for it next year. It was a perfectly put challenge, and it was one that I accepted. I didn't get salty. I didn't attack him for a straw man and say, how dare you, SEMCOG is a great organization. We all know it is. The question is, what do you bring back? And, I appreciate Trustee Vosberg's response, which is, hey, we'll do better and we'll get, because there's a tremendous amount of things, and I didn't appreciate a review of the photo ops. I know all too well how many pictures were taken at the Brandenburg Park Shoreline Project and the kayak. I know all too well of the awards it received and those who were front and center in those photographs. I know it. What I would like is a return on the investment, and not saltiness or victim status, just no problem. No problem. I know the worth of the organization. I'll bring it next time. And just closing, I want to thank the comments Ms. Merriweather made regarding the debate that we had tonight. It is important, and I'm willing to stay and listen to residents, and she is somebody who kind of put it on the line too. She was out knocking doors and telling her neighbors and residents what she wanted to do on behalf of the township. And there's members of our audience who have made that commitment as well. And to put it on the line personally and suffer some of the personal attacks that come with politics, and yet still come to board meetings and go to the podium and write letters and be part of Rotaries and chamber groups and continue to give and give and give is just really commendable. It's what makes our, I was just praising you, Ms. Merriweather, but you'll have to watch the YouTube video. And it is a testament to what this community really is. And what it really is are people like what we have in our audience tonight, staying committed, challenging their elected officials, speaking out, and then going out into the community and talking to their neighbors about what they can do is what makes us great, and I appreciate it very much. Thank you.
Trustee Deming.
First, congratulations, Kevin Johnson. I wish you well at the next community. Thanks for a great job that you've done for 20-plus years. Also, I too, please pray for all the people in Ukraine and everything that's going on over there. I feel sorry for all the kids and orphans. And lastly, I want to address the individuals who keep talking about the F-35s and the noise. You know, we haven't seen them. The only couple times the F-35s have been around here has been an air show. But it's amazing. People keep talking about the F-35s, but this weekend, and correct me if I'm wrong, it was a C-5 transport doing constantly fly-arounds and doing touch-and-goes out at the base. It was loud, but I didn't hear anybody complaining about that C5 coming around. Pardon me? Okay. Wasn't that loud. It's pretty loud. I'm used to jets. I've lived here all my life. I lived at Selfridge through Vietnam when I was a young kid. I lived through the jets. I lived through 9/11 when they were taking off out of Selfridge with their afterburners. I remember taking pilots, throwing them in the back seat of my scout car, and I think Brad was doing it too at 9/11. We were running guys out to the base because Hall Road was backed up. But nobody complained about when they were protecting our country in 9/11. I'm just tired of hearing about the F-35s and the noise.
Thank you. Trustee Vosberg.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. I'd like to thank and congratulate Vicki again on the award for our financial reporting. It's good to know that, first of all, that we are reporting correctly and that there's enough initiative to want to get recognized through an association like that. And another shout out to Kevin and thank him for his many years of service here for the township. I want to address the Selfridge issue a little bit. It's a convoluted, multi-level issue. And Selfridge it's a federal property. While our local government has some influence at some levels, the heavy lifting is really on the federal level. Our state, our county, United States senators and congresspeople are the people that make the big decisions and appropriate the funds for that. So in my opinion, we need, that needs to be dealt with. I think the residents can go and complain to them and to express their concerns to our federal people as well. The future growth of Selfridge is of concern to us as a township because it's our neighbor, but the decisions are made at the federal level. And then finally, the future and welfare of our residents is the township's concern. And if we're to look out for the welfare of our residents, we have to communicate with Selfridge, who, as far as I ever hear, is their concern is for protecting us if an aircraft should crash. And we have to work together. There's no one answer on one side or another. I support property owners' rights to do anything they want, but I also support listening to somebody who has the knowledge that the people at Selfridge do when they are concerned and want to talk to us. We have to listen. Thank you.
Treasurer Elliott.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. Regarding the SEMCOG presentation that was given, it was 5 slides. It was on October 26th of 2021. It covered the federal legislative discussion. It covered, It covered the General Assembly session highlights, shared prosperity and economic resiliency, water infrastructure, mobility and transportation, parks, trails, and recreation. We talked about the equity emphasis area tool. We talked about the crash locations tool and road, streets, and pathways group. So that was on October 26th. You're welcome to look at that, or if you'd like a copy of that, it's a PowerPoint, so without a lot of explanation, but I'll be happy to email it to you. If you send me an email, please, and I'll respond with that. Regarding the PFAS, if you easily Google Representative Gary Peters, you will find almost monthly him making some sort of statement or talking about legislation. He did have a representative here at the meeting where General Mammon spoke. I know that most of the folks who had talked about PFAS tonight spoke to that representative, and I hope that that was good conversation. I know that I was at a meeting not too long ago where Representative Lisa McLean had spoken about possible cybersecurity out of Selfridge, and that's something that's also being discussed, as well as the F-35s. I know it's been a long time discussion, but no movement on that for years. the Six Rivers Land Conservancy. The idea behind that would protect the North Lagoons property from elected officials who desire to develop the property. The proclamation that was introduced in February, I do apologize. It was my intention to get it in at the beginning of the month. However, I missed the deadline, and so when given the choice between either not having it at all or having it at the end of the month, I chose to push it forward anyways, even though I missed the original meeting in February. I do apologize. And yes, we have a system that has been improved for that matter that came out of actually that conversation. I also want to congratulate Finance Director Bauer. She did a fantastic job and well-deserved recognition. Thank Kevin Johnson for always being helpful, for always being informative, available, and for one of the things that I will miss about Kevin is him walking down the hallway and you could hear him coming because he was always laughing and always had a big smile on his face. And for those who have stayed and who came, I understand why you stayed, because all issues involve you. Thank you.
Thank you, Treasurer Elliott. Crookberry.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. I'm going to try to make my comments brief because I know that it is a late evening and I'm sure there's some folks who'd like to get home. First, I'd like to just talk about something that was brought up tonight. And I don't typically do this, however, I think it's worth noting because it's actually a good question, and that is, question came up from the podium tonight regarding ranked choice voting. And what ranked choice voting is when you have multiple candidates in a race, so there's more than two candidates, there's three or more. What it allows voters to do is it allows them to rank those choices in order of their preference. And what will occur is if there is not a candidate who does not receive 50% of the vote, then it goes to an instant runoff. So we also call those instant runoff elections. They have those in other states. They have it in Maine and I believe Alaska as well. That would require a change in the state legislation in order to do that. So in our case,
Please don't interrupt.
they are a city, we're not a town. They're not a township, so it's different. However, for us, we don't have that option. However, ranked choice voting has a number of challenges associated with it. I don't see that happening here. I'd be happy to discuss the different methods. There's also multiple methods for ranked choice voting as well. But in essence, that is what it is. I don't see that happening here because of the number of challenges that we have regarding ranked choice voting. However, it was a good question, and it's something that maybe folks are not aware of. There's multiple methods with that, and clerks discuss it on from time to time it will come up. And by and large, clerks are not wholly in favor of it because of the multiple challenges here in Michigan and specifically in townships. So there's, I'd like to address that. Secondly, again, typically I don't address issues of how I vote and when I vote. I'd be happy to discuss any vote I ever take on any legislative issue with anyone at any time. So just please contact me if there's a question. But I would like to address the item that I voted no on this evening and why I voted no on it. The Clerk's Department, according to our board rules, is responsible for the recording of these meetings. However, the Clerk's Department was not consulted on this particular solution. When we looked at the solution for equipment and how we were going to proceed with taping board meetings several years ago, I spoke at that time in opposition. I thought that the direction that was being proposed was not the best choice for Chesterfield, given our various limitations, staffing, and so forth. And I felt that, and I spoke out at that time against the purchase of the new equipment. I felt that wasn't the way to go. We should have looked at a contractual service. That's not the pleasure of the board at the time. I was a lone no vote on that at that time. However, it doesn't surprise me that this agenda item came before us because I predicted it. I knew that that would happen, and it wasn't because I was necessarily smarter than the average bear, but I had already been here for 6 years and seen the challenges at that time, And so it wasn't difficult to predict that we were going to have challenges if we continued down the path that we did. And now we have. And now it's costing another $18,485. I feel we're just throwing good money after bad constantly with this particular solution. And given that the clerk's office is responsible for this, has been charged with that responsibility from the township board through the adoption of the board rules, that we would have liked to have been consulted on what we would have suggested to be a solution to the, I will admit, Trustee Joseph's absolutely right, the ongoing quality problems that we are having. Again, these are things that I predicted at the time were going to happen because we had already had issues, and I didn't see that as fixing the issues that we were going to have. So absolutely unacceptable quality issues with that. Not sure this is going to solve the problem either, but again, as Trustee Joseph mentioned earlier, would prefer to be consulted or at least advised on some things. In this case, that is the case with this particular item. I do hope to make the very best of that situation and try to get this, the board recordings better than what they are to the extent that we are able to do that. Thank you, Mr. Supervisor.
Thank you, Clerk Berry. Just a few things. We've made significant progress with the anchor-based school discussions in regards to the lease of the school for extended township use, particularly in the Parks and Rec and senior programming. We're in the final stages of solidifying a handshake agreement. I'll present that to the board along with the attorney to review and sometime in April. Hopefully we can move on that. I think it is favorable and it is a positive step forward for the township. Spoke with Chief Miller and Director Bassett. The heavy rescue that was purchased or approved by the board last year, it is in manufacturing. We hope to receive that sometime in August of '22. We'll keep the board informed on that. In regards to the Six Rivers presentation to the North Lagoon site, there will be a item on the upcoming agenda to discuss and seek direction on where that is going. All relevant documents, both historical, for what it's worth, are being researched right now and gathered, and you'll get a summary package. And then if you seek or want any further documentation as the board, please let us know, the supervisor's office know, and we'll try and accommodate that. Any and all documents related to that will be posted on the Facebook page or social media page along with the website. And again, the goal is transparency. Limitations on the technology and broadcasting here. There was a lot of money spent on technology over the past years, including this mic and recording system, and unfortunately the expertise to operate it just did not come along with it. No fault to any employee here, but we have to transition into a more technically based function to where we don't have the problems of interrupted mics or failures in video and in broadcasting. And if you look around to other communities with Shelby TV, other communities surround us, I'd like to get to that format or at least to that platform. We are making great strides in this area to enhance that service for our residents, and I think you will be pleasantly pleased in the coming months and year with that agreement that you approved tonight. As far as the Gratiot property sale, yes, I did ask the facilities once we dug into it to look into and post the approval for demoing the building, knowing full well that it had to come back here to the board for approval. And if the board didn't agree with my approach, you got ample opportunity to say no and object it, and it wouldn't have offended me one bit. The reference to fuel costs and the economic times that are going on right now, yes, they impact this township just like they do every individual here and in the public, and we will continue to monitor it and watch it as we move forward. I'd like to thank the women that stayed tonight. I appreciate your presentation. Ms. Merriweather, thank you for gathering the group and getting them here. And again, appreciate all that all women do for this community and abroad. So with that being said, we have item number 13A, closed session. Do I have a motion to proceed into closed session?
Motion to go into closed session?
Clerk Bear, I'm sorry.
Thank you. Item 13, closed session to consult with the township attorney regarding trial or settlement strategy in connection with pending litigation, KMP Realty LLC versus Charter Township of Chesterfield, Macomb County Circuit Court docket number 2022-000374-AW.
Do I have a motion to approve?
Motion to go in closed session?
Second.
Clerk Berry? All those in favor?
Aye.
I'm sorry. Roll call vote. Clerk Berry, I'm sorry. Trying to take your job.
Trustee Demink.
Aye.
Clerk Berry, aye. Trustee Anderson. Trustee Joseph.
Aye.
Trustee Vosberg. Treasurer Elliott.
Aye.
Supervisor Kersten.
Aye.
We are in closed session at 9:50.
9:50. If everyone could vacate Do I have a motion to return to regular session?
Motion to return to open session.
Support?
Motion by Clerk Berry, supported by Trustee Joseph to return to open session. Do I have a motion? Oh, I'm sorry. Roll call vote, Clerk Berry?
Clerk Berry, aye. Trustee Joseph. Aye. Trustee Anderson. Trustee Vosberg. Trustee Demink. Aye. Treasurer Elliott.
Aye.
Supervisor Kersten.
Aye. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Motion to adjourn by Trustee Vosberg, supported by Trustee Demink. Clerk Berry? Oh, I'm sorry. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Meeting is adjourned at 10.